Hi, today we are in San Mateo with EverString and Vincent. Vincent, who are you and what do you do?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good.
Welcome to Silicon Valley.
Thank you very much. What are you doing at EverString?
I'm one of the co-founder and CEO of EverString. And what the whole company is doing is to predictive analytics, helping sales and marketing teams to predict who's their next customers.
Great. And what did you do before you started this company?
So when I started this company, I was mostly working in finance. So I started with my career in JP Morgan as an investment banker. So over there, my main job was analyzing public stock and then to decide which stock we should privatize. And later on, I moved to a private equity firm called Summit Partners. It was based here in Palo Alto. And my job again was to analyzing companies. So I analyzing around 25 to 30,000 companies in about 2.5 years. And then this is kind of mainly my experience before EverString.
And how did you come up with this idea of creating EverString?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I was originally a mathematics major. And when I was working in finance in JP Morgan, I applied a lot of analytic skills on the analyzing public stocks. So this is all fine. And then when I go to Summit, I realized for a human being, it's very difficult to analyze like tens of thousands of private companies, and there's not too much information. It's not public traded. There's no revenue information. So on that, I have the idea of, is it possible to use natural language processing to analyze companies for me so that I do not need to go to visit their website every day. And all I wanted it to do is for tens of thousands of companies, and if you look at the whole US, there are in total 5 million companies that have a website. I wanted to know which company is growing, which company is more interesting, and which company fits the Summit investment criteria.
Understood.
So I started to do codings inside of Summit and then do some trials, and it works very well. And this really triggers me to think, hey, there's actually a new space to really apply the big data, the text mining, especially analyzing the unstructured data, into helping business make better decisions.
But still, there you analyze the companies which are growing, etc. But and then what is the leap towards marketing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when EverString was first founded, we actually focused a lot on financial institutions. So helping venture capital, private equity, investment banks, and even hedge fund. So we almost turned ourselves into an algorithm trading hedge fund. And it's in about late last year, I got a call from one CMO, and then he was one of the friend of friend, and he heard about us and asking, is it possible we apply the machine learning and natural language processing engine into their company and help him to analyze his leads, which is our company too. So initially, that surprises us because we have never been to this space. And then we did a very small trial. We really starting to analyze, because to us, analyzing company and analyzing leads is actually the same thing. So we did a trial, and it actually worked very well. So it actually converts about 300% more conversions than the benchmark. And after that, this really opened the door for us, for all of us, which back then we are all a bunch of mathematicians and neural network PhDs. So once we see it working very well for the marketing sales team, and then we realized the market is even bigger than the financial institution. So we started to now go all into this space. Okay,
so now you're only focusing on the marketing side, right?
That's right.
Okay, great. How do you manage your productivity of a daily day?
Yeah, and my productivity actually varies a lot in different stages of the company. In the early days when we were in the seed round stage, there were not too many of us. In total, we have about 10 people. So I was basically doing, my main focus back then was focusing on algorithm design, focus on the backend architect, and focus more on getting the beta customers. But now, after the Series A, our company was significantly larger. We hired 12 people in last months. And now, and also now that we have 35 people in total, and it's a much bigger team right now, and we're expected to grow like double in the size very soon. So in this case, my day was terrible. So I now manage my day. I follow a very strict discipline. So I get up close to 5:30 every day, and I go to the gym every day. just to make sure that I was well energized for the day. And then I'll finish everything, go to the office at around 7 to 7:30, and before everybody arrived. So from 7:30 to 9, I try to focus a lot on product review, product design, and making sure all the algorithms are in good track. And then during the day from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, sometimes it's not actually my time. My time was divided by everybody, and then it's everybody put the calendar invite to my calendar. So I was mostly suffering to sales meetings, marketing meetings, product reviews, algorithms reviews, backend engineer, sales update calls, and all kind of things. And from 5 o'clock, now things starting to cool down a little bit. I starting to get back my time again, and then grab dinner, and then go back to do reply to email and finishing the day on that.
Okay, great. And how do you keep focus on all of the day? Because I can imagine if you have 10 open items that you need to work on, how do you focus on a specific item at a certain time?
That's a good question. So I did a couple of things. One is every month I'll write down what my top priorities are. I'll list the 5 priorities to do for the whole month. And then once that's done, I'll break it into the weekly priorities. And then this is all I have to achieve. And I share it with the top executive team in EverString. So they all know what I will be focusing on my time on. And then every day I'll write down, today there are the 3 things that I must focus on. And everything else is not as important as those things. Because I found a lot of the CEOs that their mode was what I call it interrupt driven. So they're sitting there solving issues, putting out fires everywhere. So and this is very tough for in young company. So we have to be really focused. So that's why I make sure I only focus on the right things. I do some meditations, and I think meditation helps a lot to let people focus on the fundamental issues. And that fundamental issue is, I ask myself every day, I ask most of the team members here too, why we are doing EverString, like why we are here. Most of the teams we hire are really top stars in all kind of industries. And then there's no point joining a startup. So this is the question I ask myself here too, why we are here doing EverString. So that really helps me to focus on what I'm supposed to do.
And how do you manage your team? Do you also know that they have some kind of 4 or 5 top priorities over a month? And are they communicated between the executive team?
So because I'm a big fan of planning, and I started doing my own planning for in total like 15 years now. So since I go to high school, and I plan my day every day. So this is the culture that I set up in the company. And I was wishing that everyone in our weekly meetings, everybody will listen down. Here are the top 3 things that I'll be focusing on. And 60% of their time will be focusing on top priorities that move the company to the next level. 40% of the time are putting out fires, solving issues. There are a lot of unexpected things coming up. Not everybody was used to that. In particular, engineer, scientists, that they're not born in a world where you have so many things. But gradually, I think, after working with me for some time, I think they're starting to get used to those. We use a lot of tools internally as well, the collaboration tools, the goal setting tools that get everybody into the same page.
Okay, can you recommend a goal setting tool, for example?
Yeah, so we use an Asana, and on the Asana that we're hoping everybody there is a section, everybody putting their weekly goals, and then we will review their goals. So that's a very helpful. And Trello is another helpful tool. That Trello is much easier. You could put your week into different days, and everybody could review what people are supposed to do during the days. And when we are building product, we use HackPad. It's an online writing pad where people could collaborate. This is also very helpful for the team to do things and making sure people are on the same page.
Okay, great. Vincent, let's talk briefly about your business model. How does it currently work?
What our business model is actually, if you think about in a high level, it's actually very easy. So we take a look at our clients' customers, and we find a lookalike, and that's it. So this is the biggest pain points that I find when I was talking with a lot of CMOs. They're like, oh, today I know we have a lot of revenues, our revenue will grow, but if you ask them, who are your ideal customers? This is a question where most of the CMOs don't have a clear answer. And when I ask them, who are the leads that you don't want to talk to? They're like, I don't have a clear answer.
Yeah.
So our fundamental goal in EverString is really to use data science to help you understand who are your ideal customers and bring you more of them. So this is kind of the general high-level concept. In terms of the way how it works is we plug in our engine inside of their CRM, marketing automation, and all the internal lead capturing tools they have been using. We first analyze who are your ideal customers and who are the bad leads that you don't want it to talk to. But all the information we have is just a company name or a URL. This is the same thing when I was back in the finance part of the world. Is back then I would have a whole list of 30,000 company names. And I have to do all the analysis to come up with, among the 30,000, who shall I talk to? So the same thing. Once we have that, and then we're starting to crawl the web, and then we focus a lot on analyzing unstructured context. So we have the technology built internally to turn a whole web page into mathematical signals. A web page is unstructured, and mathematical signal is structured. So that there's a lot of work internally that we're doing that. That's why in this space that we are able to generate features that are around 50 times more than our competitors. So our predictive accuracy is much higher as well. So this is generally how we have been doing in building the model. So once the model is built, and then we apply the model to do a lot of things. So we apply the model to tell all the sales team every day when all the leads come to the website, what are the leads you should focus on? And also trying to grab more leads into the funnel, whether it's upper funnel and the lower funnel. So this is generally what we are doing.
Do you only tell, okay, you should focus on these leads, or do you already tell some kind of story or some kind of pitch that you could use? I don't know, if you see a potential lead went to a conference, and assuming the company did not have this information before, then you could either pitch, okay, he was on the conference, maybe you can use this as a pitch for making the contact.
Yeah, this is something that's important that we built a prototype, but we haven't put into the production environment. This is in the product roadmap. Not only helping our clients to know who to talk to, but also help them to engage with them.
Understood. Let's talk briefly about the corporate strategy. So can you tell us a little bit more about the general overview of the product strategy going forward?
The industry we are in is a very early stage industry. In general, people call it predictive analytics, but it's just very much like a buzzword. It's like people call it big data, people call it Hadoop. In the early days, people call social network. It's just buzzword. But in reality, what we're doing is just to use data science to help specifically on the marketing team, the demand generation people, the inside sales team, the lead qualification team to do better on their jobs. Right now, there are a few players like us that in a space that's early in the stage. And then what most of the people are doing is building a model. This is where we are right now. So in the future, what you can imagine is once the model is built, there are a lot of places where you could apply the model to help them to do better lead scoring, to help generating better leads, and that there are a few more things that could help them further. So for us, it's no different. So we are constantly exploring new applications that could be built based on a model we apply to the clients. So right now we have built a few very interesting applications. So we are working with our clients on those. So we haven't announced it yet, but very soon we'll be letting the world know that the superpower of the model, and once it applied in the right way, whole business efficiency and your revenue will have a big boost.
Can you tell us a little bit about the industry structure or the market structure in general, and maybe some trends you have identified?
Yeah, sure. The way how I think about the industry is in three parts: is data, insights, and action. If you look at three parts. So in the general, what I call the marketing or the sales intelligence space or the sales enablement space, there are a lot of data providers, right? The data providers, they focus on generating proprietary data and then feed it to direct customer or to the modelers like us. And then you have the middle part, which is the insights, like us, like some other players, that what we focus on is building predictive model and integrating the third-party data, the first-party data to do a good job on telling what your audience will look like. And then there's the action part where you have the CRM, you have the marketing automation, and you have the DSP, SSP part of the world that help you to really engage with the client. So this is what I see the ecosystem of the market, but definitely the trend that I would see those three parts will come closer and closer to really even become one place. So this is a very interesting trend that I have seen happening a little bit in the market. It's still early in the games, but definitely 5 to 10 years down the line, you will see some players that are able to handle all three things at the same time and provide an end-to-end solutions.
Okay, and what would be your estimate or forecast? Do you rather think that the data companies will, like say, integrate all the other steps, or do you really think that they would just organically try to build something similar?
Yeah, I think all the three parts of the industry has the potential and ambition to take over the whole industry. This is just generally true for most of the industries. So on the lower stream, people wanted to go upstream. The data vendors, where I see they're starting to build models, they're starting to even go more and more into the action part. And similarly for the people, the marketing automation, the CRM provider, they're trying to go a little bit backwards as well. So everybody might have a chance to win, but to me that I feel like the eventual winner, it really depends on how good you understand the real workflow of your clients and how strong the team you have. It's easy to say we do predictive analytics, but it's actually very hard to do it. A lot of the people that I know just basically use this Excel sheet to do some simple logistic regression. But where you can do it and I can do it, it's very easy. But for us in day one, that we hire PhDs in Stanford that focus on neural network and then analyzing about tens of billions of data points to build the models. So these are the people that it's very hard to get, and it's very hard to make them work as a team. So yeah, so we will see who will eventually win the game.
Okay, great. Let's take a step back and talk briefly about machine learning. So how does machine learning work basically for somebody who has never done it before?
You mean for a first-time entrepreneur interested in space? Or?
Yeah, right. For example, if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm interested in doing some kind of machine learning startup, and what should I know how the basic machine learning world works?
Great. So I think the basic concept of machine learning is very, very simple. Is on two parts. You understand the past, and you try to use this to predict the future, right? So the past and the future. So in the technical terms, the way how we understand the past is by building a model, what we call the training set. So we need some of the data that tells me a little bit about your past, so I have to build a model on. The second thing is what we call the evaluation. So it's very important to know how good the performance was for this model. So we need sort of evaluation data set to test how well the model could perform. I think for a first-time entrepreneurial engineers or anyone that interested in come to the space, definitely try to go watch the Andrew Ng's lecture about machine learning. So Andrew Ng is a famous professor in Stanford that he does the whole Coursera videos on machine learning. I think this is very helpful for people that doesn't know the space. And the other thing is more to understand where do you want to apply the machine learning. I've seen when I was back in finance and when I was an investor myself, I've seen numerous companies that claim they're doing machine learning. It's more like a typical failure example on you have a technology and then you look for a solution. Most of the cases that doesn't work. So I've seen companies apply machine learning to industries that will never make any money or to industries that are not growing. So this is also, I think, is one of the lessons that I learned in a hard way as well, to really first think about what are the solution you wanted to solve, rather than think, I'm just going to do a machine learning company. So I feel like that might be a little bit tough.
Sure. Okay, great. Let's talk briefly about your learnings and advice that you can give to first-time entrepreneurs. What have you learned over the last years?
I've learned so many things in the past, and how do I start? So a couple of things. One is I think in hiring, I made a few mistakes on hiring, and it's very important for first-time entrepreneurs to have a really strong principle and discipline in hiring, and don't hire your best buddies in your high school, don't hire your uncles and cousins just because that you know each other for 15 years. Or don't hire people because that they are just good in interview and never do reference check. So really have a discipline in hiring. Hiring really could, if you hire the wrong people, this could really kill a company. Product strategy, if that wasn't right, that's fine. You could eventually pivot, but hiring could kill a company. So hiring, I think, is a fundamental part. And the second is really to dream big. And obviously a lot of the people say, oh, just think big, but it's actually very hard to do. When I'm interviewing with so many people now, we are hiring a lot of executives, and you ask them to think big, you ask them how the industry will look like. Well, it turns out most of the people do not have the capability to think big. You do not even practice. So constantly you should ask yourself your question. All right, now there's Microsoft, there's Oracle, but what are the new products that could come up that could totally disrupt Microsoft? What are the new products that could disrupt the total CRM industry? What are the new products that could disrupt whatever the traditional DSP or the ad technology industries? So these are the questions you really need to ask yourself every day as a brain exercise. So thinking big is very, very important. In the past, in the early days, we actually did not think big. We try to see, or we just narrowly focus, we only do this thing, so eventually we become a big ship in a small pond. We can never go anywhere. So we would rather be, let's find the big ocean. Even if you start as a small ship, but because the ocean is so big, there's a tons of ways that you could gradually become a really, really big, gigantic ship.
But it is very interesting what you just said, because in Europe a lot of investors say maybe you should start in a niche market where you can create a big market share, and maybe once in a time later on you can move to other markets.
Right. Obviously you need to start small. I understand that's definitely true, but in my opinion is you really want to make sure the industry is big enough that could have so many different players in a space, and then there's so much room to grow, and then there are so many modules and features you could really bring to the industry, and also industry is old enough that you could disrupt. So if you really start with very, very small without even looking at the industry, you might end up taking 100% of the market share of the industry that's in total $5 million.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Vincent, you said that hiring is key. Totally understand. What are you focusing on when somebody sits in front of you and you want to test whether he's the right guy or girl to join the company?
It depends on the level that I'm interviewing, whether it's a junior level engineer, a senior level data scientist, or an executive level product officer. So I'll focus on the mid-level and above, because junior level is more skill sets testing, a little bit on not too much on the other things. Mid-level and above, I will focus on the mistakes that they have made. I will usually ask how many mistakes that you have made and what have you learned from the mistakes. So if people say, no, I've not made any mistakes, and then I would rather to see people making lots of mistakes and learn from that. Even in EverString, we make mistakes too. But this is a new space. If you don't stretch yourself too much, you will never be able to grow. So this is the thing that I think I benefited most from, is always every day to go outside of my comfort zone. Every day to try something new, because that's the evolvement of yourself I think is the true purpose of human beings. And I find that I learned a lot of the kind of achievement by doing that. So coming back to the hiring question, the question I always ask, how many mistakes you have made? Second question I would usually ask is, what if I do a reference call to your supervisor and to your peers, what would they say about you? What are the critiques that you think they will say about you? So this is really to test whether they have good self-awareness or not. If you join Oracle, Microsoft, that's fine. You go there and you work. But if you join an early stage company, the things what we're doing, nobody have done before. For sure, we will make mistakes, but we want someone that have a very strong self-awareness, that every day could reflect and know, what did I do right, what did I do wrong? And so with this, the whole team could grow very, very far away.
Great. Are there any further learnings you would like to share with our audience?
I think the other learning that I have is really just to have the courage to start. If you talk about the general starting up a company, and most of the people that, if you dare to think, and most of the people have a very high safety net, similar to my former background, work in finance, work in Wall Street, you have a relatively high income, and as long as you don't make mistakes, you have a very safe track to be a managing director in a private equity firm or something. You have a high income, but if at the end of the day, when you die, you ask yourself, what are the influence you bring to the world? And you might think, maybe not too much. So this is the one that most of the company that I see, or my friends, their company, a lot of them fail actually in the seed round. And the main reason why they fail is not because the product doesn't fit, is their founders give up. The reason why the founder give up is they're constantly evaluating, if I go to work in McKinsey, here's how much I make. In the company, I make nothing. So every day they're evaluating their opportunity costs and their salaries in a startup. I think that's not the right way to think about it, right? So burn the bridge, never even think about the opportunity costs, and keep going. I think that's kind of one of the strongest lessons that I learned. If you could really be committed, think about the question, when you die, what are the things you really leave the world? What are the things you really push the mankind and all the organizations forward to even a little tiny step? And if you think in this way, you will find running a company is the single best careers in your life. Great. Don't do consulting, don't do banking. That's a waste of your life.
Great. Thank you very much, Vincent. And now you should think about what should you do in your life. Maybe start a company. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
Thanks.